We have massive updates in today's episode of Fight News. Great fight announcements from UFC 313, UFC London, Saudi Arabia, Seattle, as well as UFC Vegas, and also about Ilia Topuria's decision to vacate the belt to move up to the lightweight division. To keep you updated, we'll go in a chronological order and start the video from UFC 310. After Demetrius Johnson's refusal to come back out of retirement and fight Alexandre Pantoja in the UFC, Pantoja believes a fight with Kai Kara France next makes the most sense, or maybe he will wait for the winner of Mirab vs Umar to challenge for the second belt. But former flyweight king Deiveson Figueiredo enters into the situation and offers to drop back down to beat Pantoja once again, this time for the belt which was once his. Bryce Mitchell wants to get right back in there following his win over Kron Gracie. He accepts Doo Ho Chui's call out and wants it to take place at UFC 313 in Las Vegas. UFC 313's first fight is, by the way, announced. Amanda Lemos will fight Yasmin Lucindo at UFC 313 on March 8th. Joshua Van, who beat Cody Redden at the early prelims of UFC 310, also cannot wait to climb the rankings further and calls out Tim Elliott for a fight in January or February. Randy Brown tells Ariel Helwani that he is confident in saying that Brian Battle's 4-pound weight miss at UFC 310 was a tactical investment. Battle says he weighed 194 pounds on fight night, but Brown believes it was probably closer to 200 pounds. Brown revealed that following his split decision loss to Brian Battle, Dana White and Sean Shelby told him they thought he should have got the decision. He is open for a rematch if Battle can make weight this time. Anthony Smith explains his mindset during his fight with Dominic Reyes and says he wasn't himself at UFC 310, and Alexander Volkov is seen smashing a Russian metal singer with a body shot. UFC Tampa bout order is updated after the removal of Mackenzie Dern vs Amanda Ribas. Cub Swanson vs Billy Quarantillo is now the co-main event. Cobb vs Silva and Sterling vs Tokos moves to the main card, and Michael Johnson vs Otman Azatar moves from the main card to the featured prelims. After nearly 1 year away from the octagon, Colby Covington is finally back and had a lot to say at UFC Tampa Media Day. He starts the interview going off on LeBron James for his "ain't no party like a Diddy party" comment, and then says that he will be back at his best when he returns to headline UFC Tampa this Saturday. Covington believes he's the biggest name in MMA, and a win over Joaquin Buckley is enough to earn him another welterweight title shot. He questions Shavkat Rakhmonov's skills, wants trilogy with Kamaru Usman, and then drags John Jones out of nowhere and tells him to stop decking Tom Aspinall. He revealed he's staying in a multi-million-dollar mansion during fight week to avoid the fighters in the hotel. Joaquin Buckley, on the other hand, also had a lot to say about Colby Covington. Buckley says that Colby is always calling out featherweights and lightweights and that his WWE persona has no value anymore. Buckley has queries on if Shavkat Rakhmonov can make it to the title fight after his boring decision over Ian Gary. Just like Colby Covington, he is also delusional about getting the next title shot as he plans to leapfrog Shavkat with an exciting win this weekend. Buckley shares a fun fact that he watched Stephen Thompson's YouTube videos to prepare for their fight and it worked. Former title challenger Gilbert Burns shares his thoughts on this weekend's main event and believes Colby Covington will out-wrestle Joaquin Buckley at UFC Tampa because wrestling is Buckley's kryptonite. Cub Swanson during Media Day talks about his beef with Joaquin Buckley that started back in May when Buckley claimed he would knock out a prime version of George St. Pierre. Swanson, who is a friend and former teammate of GSP, quickly jumped to his defense and Buckley responded with a scathing tirade. Swanson now stands by his issue with Buckley but would accept an apology. He believes pioneers of the sport deserve to be respected. Manel Kaap during media day talked about his boring fight with Muhammad Mokaev, which led to Mokaev getting cut from the UFC. Kaap has absolutely zero sympathy for the UFC parting ways with him, as he believes Mokaev is a dirty fighter and a dirty person. Mokaev in response apologized for what he did and said that he has moved on with Allah's better plan. If you don't know, Muhammad Mokaev is scheduled to fight this Friday at Brave CF 91 in Bahrain. His original opponent Lutando Biko pulled out just 3 days before the fight due to health issues, but luckily Mokaev gets a replacement and will take on Jovincet So, who steps up on just 2 days notice for a 130-pound catchweight bout. And do you remember this undefeated lightweight guy from UFC 308 press conference who asked Dana a chance and was given it immediately? His name is Dorobshok Nabotov, and he is also scheduled to fight this Saturday at the Korean Zombies promotion Z Fight Night. Originally, Dana White had planned to film Looking for a Fight episode and sign him among other fighters if he is impressed. But due to the recent declaration of martial law in South Korea, White announced that ZFN2 is still going to be a Looking for a Fight card, but he will film it remotely from Tampa. He also says the UFC will eventually get back to South Korea and they are supporting the Korean Zombies promotion there in the meantime. Merab Dvalishvili talks about his fight with a fan at UFC 310 and says that he is not there for your disrespect. He also warns Umar Nurmagomedov as well and says that if Umar doesn't apologize for disrespecting him after their fight at UFC 311, he may continue to fight and slap him. He says he will even go to Dagestan to fight him if he has to. After giving lectures on disrespect, he ironically talks about Umar Nurmagomedov and the infamous jacuzzi picture and then recreated the photo with editing Umar Nurmagomedov as the cameraman. By the way, Mighty Mouse has joined Team Khabib camp to help Islam and Umar to prepare for UFC 311, while Arman Sarukian is training with Adriano Martins, the only guy to finish and defeat Islam Makhacehv in MMA, beating him in 2015 at UFC 192. Sarukian in an interview reiterates that if he wins the belt, he would like his first title defense to be against Charles Oliveira. He plans to fight 3 times in 2025. When he was asked who is better between peak Islam versus peak Khabib, he labels Khabib Nurmagomedov as the lightweight GOAT. By the way, the official poster for the UFC 311 is released and it looks good. Robert Whittaker reacts to Sean Strickland getting a rematch against Dricus du Plessis and is surprised at the decision by the UFC. He believes Khamzat can take down both and will eventually win against the winner of their fight at UFC 312. Du Plessis also shares more thoughts on Khamzat Chimaev being passed up by the UFC for a title shot. He believes there were some issues with the UFC and Khamzat, and timing also played a big role. I personally believe Khamzat didn't take the fight because of Ramadan. By the way, Sean Strickland's coach Eric Nixick is happy getting another opportunity and is excited to build on the success Strickland had against DDP in part 2. He also wonders why Khamzat Chimaev is gonna be cage side at UFC 312. UFC Vegas 102 main event is announced and you are gonna like it. Jared Cannonier will fight Robocop Gregory Rodriguez in a 5-rounder headliner at UFC Vegas 102 on February 15th. Vince Morales will fight Elijah Smith, and Edwin Shabazian also returns to the octagon as he takes on Dalian Budka undercard. With the new fight announcements for the card, one of the already announced fights is cancelled as Tough 30 winner Juliana Miller is out of her bout versus Carly Judas due to injury. The promotion is seeking a replacement. As we still don't know who is gonna headline UFC London against Leon Edwards, Carlos Prates likes the idea of headlining the London card against Edwards if JDM doesn't pan out in Sydney at UFC 312. Headliner is yet to be announced, but for the undercard, there are 3 more announcements for UFC London. Christian Leroy Duncan will fight Andre Pulaev, Alonzo Manifield will take on Umar Sai, and Molly McCann will take on Istela Nunes at UFC London on March 22nd. Other than these London bouts, Modestas Bukauskas will fight Rafael Corcuera at UFC Seattle on February 22nd, and Andre Lima will fight Daniel Barres at UFC Vegas 104 on March 15th. After hearing the UFC are struggling to find an opponent for Fiziev's return at UFC Saudi Arabia, the Georgian Viking Guram Kutatiladze puts his name forward. But Fiziev in response revealed that he has already got the fight. He didn't say the name yet, but according to rumors, it's Mateusz Gamrot. Ilia Topuria's coach George Clement has reiterated Topuria's desire to move to the lightweight division, possibly vacating the featherweight belt. Clement truly believes Topuria is done at 145 and will not be fighting Alex Volkanovski next. He reveals weight cut is the main reason Topuria won't be defending his belt at 145 and moving to the 155 next. Clement says Topuria would like to return in May against Charles Oliveira. If not, then Dustin Poirier. And it seems Poirier also likes the idea. Ilia Topuria clears the air on his decision to move up to the lightweight division and says he's not gonna vacate the 145 pounds belt, but he also no longer have the motivation to defend it anymore. He says they haven't yet talked to the UFC about this, but he is eventually gonna conquer lightweight division. Paddy Pimblett also reacts to the news, reminding us of their old rivalry. Diego Lopez believes Ilia Topuria has something left to be done in the UFC featherweight division, but if he intends to move up, then Lopez and Movsar Evloev both want to fight Alexander Volkanovski next. Ilia Topuria's brother Alexandre Topuria has announced via Instagram that he will make his UFC debut at the beginning of 2025. Jack Shore's father announced that his son is officially retired from MMA and has been removed from the active UFC roster. Shore has a professional record of 17 wins and 3 losses and went 6-3 in the UFC across both bantamweight and featherweight. And last but not least, Nate Diaz has been charged for a misdemeanor battery charge after an assault at a nightclub in August. He had an altercation with a security guard outside Omnia nightclub at the Caesar Palace in Las Vegas on August 25. And that's all. Do like the video as now you are completely up to date with the fight world. Share your feedback in the comment section and then do whatever you want.